Let's start with this video. Guys, a Ugandan member of parliament and a party president broke down in tears yesterday, begging President Museveni to allow him get nominated to contest for the 2026 presidential elections. Where have you seen that happen? A member of parliament break down in tears, crying due to frustrations that government has meted upon them now that to the extent that they're left with no option but to protest what government is doing to them, but I'll also go as far as shedding tears for what he feels government is doing to him. Is this pretense? Is it drawing public sympathy? Or is he genuinely hurt by what the regime is doing to them? This is a video of party president Jimmy Akena expressing his dissatisfaction in the Electoral Commission for denying him his right to get nominated to contest for presidency in 2026. But also, he alleges that President Museveni has a hand in it, and therefore he has decided to protest by kneeling down every time the national anthem is played. This is the video.
When we had Chan, I was invited as a president of motorsport. I had my full jersey on, and it was my intention to kneel during the national anthem at Kololo airstrip, because I am at this moment carrying out a protest on why I have been denied to be nominated to contest for the presidency of the Republic of Uganda. But I failed to do it at Kololo Independence Grounds. Reason being, Kololo is where the Union Jack went down and the Uganda flag went up. And the person who was there to receive the instruments of power was my father. So it was not going to be possible to see Akena kneeling in Kololo when the national anthem for Uganda is being played. But that doesn't mean I'm not hurt. It doesn't mean I am not breaking inside. Please, I am asking this one, and I'm asking you people of the front bench, tell the president, stop this. It's wrong. It is wrong. UPC has been accused of rigging elections. This is a chance I have as Jimmy Akena to set that record straight. You won't even let me get past the gate. Is this an election or is this a farce? I'm ready to go through this for the sake of the people who support me, for the sake of UPC, who has representatives here.
One thing I can tell Jimmy Akena is these people don't care. Whether you're ready to go through this or what, they don't care. Once they've decided to do something to you, you will get shege. You will get shege. This is nomination shege. Jimmy Akena is suffering from nomination shege, courtesy of the Electoral Commission. Wandika wansa wanti enobajita nomination shege. For me personally, I've never seen a member of parliament tear down in such an emotional speech, just asking the president or the powers that be to let him exercise his political right as a human being or as a Ugandan. The question is, how did Jimmy Akena get to this point of begging President Museveni to stop whatever he's doing, but also accusing the Electoral Commission for not allowing him to exercise his constitutional right as a Ugandan, but most importantly, what has pushed him to decide that he's going to protest this decision by the High Court and also the plans by President Museveni to foil his plans to become president of Uganda by kneeling down every time the national anthem is being played. Allow me to explain to you. Now, for almost a year now, UPC has had internal conflict in regards to whether Akena can still be a president for the next 1 year, that is to make 3, as opposed to the 2 years that the UPC constitution actually gives a party president to be. So one of the members of UPC and other people that felt like Akena was wrongfully taking on a third term took a petition to court asking court to stop Akena from being president of UPC for the third time. This person in question was called Denis Adim. So Denis Adim and other party members challenging Akena's extension of his presidency beyond constitutionally mandated 2 terms, took a petition to court. Adim argued that Akena's continuation in office violated UPC's constitution. Now, upon that ground, the High Court ruled that Akena's nomination for a 3rd term as UPC president was unlawful, and therefore the court ordered that Akena's position be declared void and fresh elections be held within UPC to elect a new party president. Now, while court had decided that, Akena went ahead and appealed the position of the court, and the court ruled that and the court granted Akena a stay of execution, allowing him to remain UPC president pending the appeal's outcome. However, the underlying tension and legal challenges persisted, whereby this ruling was significant, whereby this ruling became a very significant blow to Akena's leadership within UPC and set a stage for further legal and political battles. It also aligned with the Electoral Commission's later decision this year in September to stop UPC from the presidential race, as the party could not present a unified candidate due to ongoing leadership crises. Fast forward, October 2nd, 2025, High Court ruled that despite the stay execution that allowed Jimmy Akena to be in office while court ruling pended, the High Court upheld the Electoral Commission decisions to bar UPC from the presidential race on October 2nd, 2025, citing the unresolved leadership disputes within the party. The ruling effectively confirmed Akena's exclusion from contesting the presidency, leading to his emotional plea in parliament. Why did Akena say that President Museveni should stop whatever he's doing? Here's the backstory. On July 23rd, 2023, Jimmy Akena made a statement accusing President Museveni of interfering in UPC's internal affairs to prevent him from running for president in the upcoming 2026 elections. Akena's accusation of President Museveni to stop whatever he's doing is directly linked to High Court ruling, which declared that Akena's extension of office as UPC president was unlawful. The court ruled that Akena's nomination for a 3rd term, that is 2026 to 2030, was illegal and void, a decision that Akena attributed to President Museveni's influence. Now, to break it down a little bit for you guys, in Uganda here, there's a wider perception that opposition does not exist because President Museveni has somehow managed to infiltrate into the many opposition circles in Uganda, whereby you've seen many of them either cross to the party or be bought in one or another, or be bought with money or given positions in the ruling party, and many of them have actually crossed. The recent one was Abdu Katuntu, who actually crossed to NRM, yet he was opposition, you understand? So, in one or another, Akena has a huge belief that President Museveni has a hand in disorganizing the party structures of the UPC. But, aside from that, it should be noted that the rivalry between the UPC and President Museveni actually go way, way back, and there's a small backstory to this. Now, the long-standing rivalry between Milton Obote and Yoweri Museveni was deeply rooted in ideological and political contradictions that shaped Uganda's post-independence history. Obote, at the helm of the Uganda People's Congress Party, championed socialist and Pan-Africanist ideals, envisioning a centralized state guided by state-led development, while in contrast, Museveni, who would later form the National Resistance Movement, advocated for a more market-oriented and decentralized model of governance. Hope you're following. Now, their relationship began in the 1960s when Museveni served in Obote's first administration, but it took a quick sour turn following the 1966 crisis that saw Obote abolish traditional kingdoms and consolidate power. So Museveni became disillusioned with what he viewed as Obote's growing authoritarianism. All right. Now, the 1971 coup by Idi Amin temporarily interrupted the rivalry. Yes, though Museveni's opposition to Amin foreshadowed his future conflict with Obote, Now, the tension reached its peak after the dispute of 1980 general elections, which returned Obote to power under widespread allegations of vote rigging. Now, convinced that democratic change was impossible, Museveni launched a guerrilla war against Obote, who was his former boss, forming the National Resistance Army in 1981. Now, the brutal conflict centered in Luwero, in the famous Luwero Triangle, was marked by atrocities and heavy civilian casualties, largely attributed to government forces loyal to Obote. We all don't know about that. Now, Obote's regime eventually crumbled in July 1985 following a coup by Tito Okello, but Museveni rejected the new military government and pressed on with his insurgency. Now, it gets interesting now. In January 1986, Museveni's NRA seized power, ending Obote's political dominance and ushering in a new political order under the NRM. I guess now you understand why this long-standing rivalry between the NRM and UPC has actually been there for the longest time, despite the fact that things seem to be a little bit ironed out, but don't be lied. There's still suspicion. There's still that pulling of ropes. That's why you see Akena is confidently accusing President Museveni of having a hand in stopping his nomination to contest for the 2026 presidential elections on grounds that the UPC actually conducted vote rigging. This is the same thing that actually took Museveni to what? To fight against UPC, which again he's using to fight against Jimmy Akena. My friend, when a regime decides to frustrate you, you realize that a regime has power. I have never seen a member of parliament plead and even tear up before his colleagues simply because one party has decided to say you cannot achieve whatever dream you want to achieve. And because of that conflict, if it is not resolved, and actually, Robert Mao gave his submission shortly after this and said that the moment the case went to court, there's going to be an injunction after injunction. So court cases take their time, and they can be influenced by outside powers, or they can be influenced by, subjective, notions by people that are actually on the decision-making side. So it could take forever. Well, which could either work in favor of Akena or not, because if the court case takes forever, it means Akena can actually stay while pending the decision of court, but he will never vie for presidency for as long as that clause of unresolved conflicts within the party still exists in the UPC. So guys, I hope I've been able to do you guys justice in regards to giving you a deeper analysis or context of exactly why Akena was crying in parliament. See you guys. Bye.